Good evening and welcome to the Village Board meeting. It's the Village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, December 27. If you're watching live on Monday, December 27, we encourage you to call in with comments or questions. The call-in number is 769-1677. Our next work session is Monday, January 3 at 7 p.m. and our next regular meeting is Monday, January 10 at 8 p.m. with a work session proceeding at 7 p.m. So we're shorthanded tonight with three of us here in the midst of this holiday week. I thank my colleagues Mindy and Brian. And a couple of things.
And we thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
A couple
It's
of
lovely being here.
A couple of things to report. First off, I apologize that we are late in kicking off our regular meeting. We had a number of things in the work session that ran longer than anticipated. A discussion about the farm market, a sort of a report on the year that just ended in December, both with our farm market committee and with Community Markets, which is our farm market manager. A discussion about possible zoning changes in the Old Village Commercial District, and then lastly, a discussion that we will continue now about sledding at the Pleasantville Country Club. Quite a number of you may have seen emails flying around left, right, and backwards over the last week and a half, something of that sort. It all surrounds a long-standing practice that has existed in this village of people sledding on the steep hills at Pleasantville Country Club in the winter months. At the time that the country club earned a site approval to become a condominium complex and the townhomes were built, part of their site plan included a right for the members of the village community to continue to sled on that private property amid the condo homes, contingent upon a means to make that happen without damaging the country club. So it has all gone very smoothly for a very long time, but I can report with some regret that last year we had quite a few problems, and there were quite a few incidents that amounted, I think, to vandalism even at the country club, and their greens and their bunkers were damaged in a number of ways, including people stabbing posts through the greens and causing all kinds of problems. So the bottom line is this. The village and the recreation department have been working with the country club, trying to find means by which we can sustain this happy, feel-good activity of people sledding at Pleasantville Country Club, and at the same time respect the interests of the neighbors who live there, our fellow residents of the country club, and make sure that the country club property is protected. And come spring, when the snow melts off, the country club owners are not forced to spend a lot of money repairing damage that was the result of the snow sports. So last year, we made an attempt to reorganize a little bit and establish some fencing that would help keep people in areas that were not fragile. And we take responsibility for the communication of that if that was a failure, but we assumed at the time that when fences went up, people would respect them. That was not in every case realized, and we ended up with a circumstance where people ended up on the greens, people ended up in the bunkers, places that are clearly fragile parts of the country club that are not suitable for this sort of activity. So we started again this year with a number of fences. I was out there myself today, and some of the fences have been blown down by the extreme wind we had, and of course it was a kind of an extreme evening the other night. At the same time, we've also had some vandalism, and we've had some people being disrespectful of the rules. In a couple of cases, when we talked to parents or kids who were out there and explained what the issues were, everybody in an appropriate Pleasantville way understood what the issues were and realized they'd be more than happy to follow those rules if only they were made clear. So here's where we stand. First thing to be understood is that the Pleasantville Country Club is private property. Our right to sled there is contingent upon everybody behaving in a fair and reasonable manner and being respectful of the people that live in the country club. That's rule one. Rule 2 is that the country club is not required to make their parking lot available to sledders, and there will be times when the country club elects to close the lot because it's icy and dangerous, because it needs to be plowed, or because the restaurant and catering hall in the clubhouse requires it for their patrons. So when the country club parking lot is closed, sledders are required to park elsewhere and walk in. Please don't try to violate that rule. The country club owns their own lot. They have the right to close it when they need to. Secondly, when you head out there, we're going to be revising the fences in the coming days to try to limit the number of areas that are fenced off to the ones that are truly sensitive. But if there are fences there, they need to be respected and they need not to be violated. Nobody should be on the greens. Nobody should be on the bunkers. If people are on the greens on the bunkers, in the end, the damage they cause may come out of the pockets of the Village of Pleasantville residents, and we can't have that either. So we're going to try to do a much better job of explaining the areas that are good to go and the areas that are not. Also a better job of fencing off the areas that need to be protected, and we depend on everybody, parents, kids, sledders of all kinds, to respect those rules so that we can preserve this thing going forward and everybody can have a good time just the way they always have. Recognize that sledding isn't the sport it was quite some years ago. We've got kids interested in snowboarding. We've got kids interested in making jumps and humps and all of that sort of stuff. I get that. It's great fun. In the end, the most important thing for everybody to realize is that you are sledding and snowboarding and cross-country skiing on private property in the vicinity of your neighbors, and it has to be done respectfully. So I'm going to communicate that back through the school district as well. We'll be clarifying the rules over the next few days and working with the country club, but let me make clear that nobody has started out this process saying kids shouldn't be allowed to sled. All we're trying to say, and I think what the country club is primarily saying, is we can't be responsible for inappropriate behavior and we can't be responsible for damage to our country club. So I'm sorry to report that I could read off, and I won't now, a long list of inappropriate behavior that's been going on both in the winter weather and in other months of the year at the country club. Our neighbors are forced to put up with a lot of difficulty with trespassing and inappropriate behavior, and we need to find a way to make it stop. So nobody on this board is trying to shut down sledding. We're trying to find a way to make sledding work in a reasonable and civic way. But let me be clear that if we can't find a way to make sledding work in a reasonable and civic way, the privilege is at risk for everybody. So that's the bottom line. We got to find a way to make this work. We depend upon everybody to help, and we ask for them to do so.
Well said. I don't even think I have anything to add to that.
Well, I think it's incumbent upon parents and anybody, older kids who are out there who see things that are going on, to sort of step in and try to guide the situation into a better outcome. Excuse me. We can't be there all the time. The village can't be there all the time. The police can't be there. The rec center. Rec department officials can't be there. All of us have to be a part of this, and specifically parents have to be a part of this. So if you take your kids up there, as we all have over the years,
That's right.
we've all used that place. You need to learn what it is that needs to be protected up there, and the biggest thing that needs to be protected is the future use of that hill for sledding by all the little kids who are still coming. And if you ignore that responsibility as a parent, then it's gone, and there's nothing we can do about that.
That's right. That's what's going to end up happening.
That's right.
If you see somebody on the green or taking down a fence or removing poles and replant, tell them this is where we're supposed to sleigh ride there. Have a wonderful time. I did for how many years?
If you hear your kids, your teenage kids, are going out or younger, are going out at midnight to sled at the country club, you need to offer the guidance, the appropriate guidance.
It's closed.
Because that's the kind of thing that's going to.
It doesn't. You're not allowed to sleigh ride there at nighttime.
That's right. That's what's going to get this taken away from
Right.
all of our kids and the kids to come.
It ends at dusk.
Right,
It ends at dusk.
You can't go on the grounds after dusk. That is private property. And if you want a bigger hill, I know when my kids got older, we went over to Rockwood Hall. That's a huge hill. It's just you got to walk all the way back up it again.
Vermont.
And in Vermont, yeah.
This is a great thing to have in the middle of our town.
That's right.
And we're working hard to preserve it. And I think we can take some of the blame for not communicating as clearly as we ought to have what the goals are here. And when we come up with a new fencing program, I think we'll be successful in highlighting the areas that are truly sensitive and that need to be protected by fences. And perhaps some of the fences we put up were covering too broad an area. So once we get that figured out, and we're going to do that fast, we will communicate to the community through the listserv, through the website, through the school district, what the rules are, where the zones are to sled. And for the most part, people can go out and have a good time just the way they always did, but they need to stay off the greens and the bunkers. And I have here some pictures that someone provided me tonight of a serial sequence of pictures of kids who went onto a green distant from the sledding areas and took down the fences and then undertook a game on the green. So those are the kinds of things that antagonize the situation, and those are the kinds of things that
we
have
do
to
have
stop.
pictures
So
of kids, parents putting kids on sleds and sledding past the no sledding signs. 3 or 4 of them right in a row, and you're sledding
So,
past the no sledding
At
sign.
any rate, we're going to
Doesn't
make
make
the
sense.
rules clearer, and I think when everybody understands what the rules are and that there is a legitimate, fair, logical reason for them, I think people will have the experience I had today when I was out there talking to people, that it all seemed a little bit arbitrary. And I understand why that is, and once people understood what the goal was, to protect the greens and the bunkers, everybody said, hey, I understand that, we'll be happy to do that. And I'm sure that will be the response from the majority of people. So it's on our side of the table to clarify the rules and also to strengthen the fences. And I apologize to the residents of the country club on behalf of the village for any of the trouble that they have thus far suffered, and we continue to work hand in hand with them to try to make this work and turn it back into the happy experience it's been for generations of Pleasantville kids. So that said, I had one other announcement to make, and that is, for those of you who may not be aware of it, Metro North sent us the notice that new fares for Metro North trains go into effect on Thursday, December 30, an average increase of about 11.1% for all ticket types. So be aware of that, and 2 things to be aware of. For those of you who may have some tickets already in hand, is that they are changing the validity period for one-way and round-trip tickets to only 14 days, so that if you have one-way or round-trip tickets, you need to use them in the first 14 days of the year or they will expire. And the validity period for 10-trip tickets, which used to be a year, has been reduced to 6 months because those tickets are now lower price tickets than the current prices. So Metro North, I'm sure, has on their website details of all of the above.
That's coming from the place that wasn't even running today. Are they up and running now? No, there's no trains.
Then the last thing I wanted to say is, as you all know, we were bombarded with snow last night. 16 inches, I think, was the official count, something to that effect. And our
Beautiful.
Yeah, 2 feet.
our DPW crew was out all night last night, and they'll be out again starting at midnight tonight. They did a great job of clearing us out.
They really did do a
They
great
did a
job.
fantastic
All the roads
job.
were passable in the morning, and thanks go to Steve Johnson's entire crew, and in particular to Rob Travis, who has been the foreman and has been pinch hitting for a period of time when Steve Johnston has been out, and did so during this storm. So thank you, Rob, and thank you to all the guys on DPW. There are quite a few towns that didn't look as good at 7 a.m.
No,
as ours did.
That's for sure. You're watching television today, even this afternoon, they were showing side streets, and, they still weren't passable. Not good.
And this morning, lights were on at Village Hall. Thank you, Patty Dwyer.
And Mike
That's right.
Testa. Mike and
Mike
I.
Testa.
And
Yes.
Mike and I
Mike
held
Mike has a
forward.
ways to go.
Yeah. You're welcome.
He probably didn't get it as bad by him, though.
We beat the post office today, which I
Well,
don't
the
think
ride
ever
down
did
was
yet.
he said, very difficult. But
Yeah.
he had a lot of snow. He had about 24 inches, he
Oh,
said.
he did have that much?
He
I
got
didn't
up
think
very
it went
early.
that far over.
He has a nice Toro blower or something fun. Oh, actually an ATV, I think, with a plow on it, so he had fun.
Oh, where was he this morning when I needed him?
I shoveled from 6 o'clock on to
I
8
think my
o'clock in
property
the
is
morning.
0.17 acres, but I'm on a corner, and
Wow.
we have substantial shoveling, and my wife has always envisioned a bobcat in the garage would be just perfect. So
Yeah, it wasn't easy to shovel.
0.17
It's
acres,
not.
I don't think we can justify it. Maybe we could share.
All right. Share with Brian.
And lastly, any of you who have driven down Romer Avenue may notice that Trustee Skarstad is here despite the fact that a 75-foot pine tree is lying at a 45-degree angle across his house.
And continues to lie across my house.
Didn't have, any damage to the house, or?
There's some damage, yeah. It has to be, there's gonna be
Like your
some
roof?
carpenters, yeah, on the roof. We haven't been able to take the tree down, because if you see it, it's a huge tree
Oh,
that's just
really big,
leaning all the
yeah.
way across my roof, so we have to figure out what to do, and I was trying to figure it out last night at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Is that when it fell?
Yeah, yeah.
But it didn't break through where you're having
It didn't.
snow and cold air coming
No,
through?
no, surprisingly.
Well, with that in mind, let's get through these resolutions so we can get
Go home.
Brian
I know.
to bed early.
Right. See, Mindy,
No,
no,
the
for
first
the
is we
public
have a
hearing.
public hearing.
I don't have to read this again, do I? I read this last week.
No, you don't have to read it again.
Is there a motion to
So
open the
moved.
public hearing on local law amending Chapter 61 dogs, Section 61-22, Article 3, dog license fees?
So,
He so moved
Second.
it, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Patty, you want to describe this?
Yeah, I'll do it very quickly and simply. In our existing village code, we recognize the New York State Department of Agriculture and Markets as being the enforcement agency, the arm of the state that dealt with annual dog licenses. About July of this year, they had closed that division and had compelled all the local governments to take over dog licensing effective January 1. So what we needed to do is amend our code, remove those sections that dealt with the section of the Agriculture and Markets Law that enabled us to issue licenses, which we've done historically, and replace it with language that indicates that the village will be issuing dog licenses going forward, collecting the fees and setting a schedule for certain exemptions. So that's basically it.
and are those...
Nothing changes except the name on the tag. It'll say Village of Pleasantville instead of Agriculture and Markets.
And those licenses are available now? if
They will
people
be
come?
as of the first of the year. People should already, whenever the renewals come up, they'll come in.
Right. Spade, there's
Anybody who
different
needs to
prices
renew,
for a
right.
spayed and neutered dog than there
Right,
is
we
for...
set the prices
And the
actually-
prices just cover the paperwork.
consistent with what Mount Pleasant charges in the event, we
How much
may
are
have a
they?
reciprocal relationship with the
It's
town.
like
$15 for
15.
spayed and neutered dog, $20 for an unspayed and unneutered dog.
It's consistent with the entire town, so we,
You should know that though, Brian, because your dog is probably licensed, right?
Absolutely.
All right, is there any comment from the public or a call in at 769-1677?
Sarah, you don't have any objections,
On the subject of the dog license fees.
We have one person in the audience.
Is
She
there,
doesn't have any
is
objections.
there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public hearing is closed. We can now move on to the resolutions. Mindy, number 251.
Resolved that the pre-check register dated December 27, 2010, covering checks number 68192 to 68289, has been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below. The general fund, $194,000. Do I have the right thing?
The wrong one.
You're out of order, but we can do it out of order.
Am
That's
I out of
okay.
order?
Yeah.
You're on,
That's,
253.
You're supposed to do 251, dog licenses.
Oh, I thought we already did that.
no, we just closed the hearing.
Right.
Oh, so that,
No.
so I have to read this all again? You told me I didn't have to.
I think we can say as stated in the record.
Yeah,
Okay, I
that's
stated
fine.
in the record that I read last week. Oh, I'm sorry, I see now what you're talking about. I apologize. Do you want me to finish this one and then,
Yeah, let's do 251, and then we won't get out of order.
all right, 251, I gotta find that,
Here
sorry,
it is.
everybody.
There you go.
I got it.
We were on a roll there.
I'm sorry, I'm
too good to be
I'm
true.
freezing
She's
to
wearing
death.
gloves. This is
They didn't
different.
put the heat on in
I
here.
did put the heat on.
They make us come to work and they don't put the heat on. Resolved that
We're
the Board of
saving your
Trustees
tax
of the
dollars.
Village of Pleasantville hereby approves a local law amending Chapter 61, Dogs, Section 61-22, Article 3, dog license fees as listed in the record below.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Brian, number 252.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves amending the master fee schedule as follows. Dog license fees, spayed and neutered dogs, $15, unspayed and unneutered dogs,
Is
$20.
there a second?
Second?
Comments or questions?
These are annual fees.
Yes,
All in
they
favor?
Yes, annual fees.
All in
Aye,
favor?
aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
All right, so I'll
Mindy,
finish.
253, yes.
I started this about the pre-check register,
Yes.
68192 through 68289, general fund $194,665.77, the water fund $13,635.51, the refuge fund $14,331.46, the pool fund $245.65, trust and agency fund $6,641.50, totaling $229,519.89.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions?
I did have a question. I and I answered it myself, I remembered.
Are you okay? Okay.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Just so you know, I read it.
You're a good
Approved.
trustee.
Brian, number 254.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the minutes of the meeting held on December 13th, 2010, and they are hereby approved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes approved, motion approved, Mindy, 255.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the following budget amendments to fund amount over budget for Bedford and Pleasantville Roads streetscape improvements, amount from $38,607.09 from Civic Space to Bedford Road project in the same amount, to increase CHIPS revenue and expense for the street resurfacing project, the amount of $14,808.83 from the CHIPS program into the street resurfacing for the same amount, and to fund over budget accounts $560 from legal contractual to miscellaneous charges debt service in the same amount.
Is there a second?
Second.
These are part of our ongoing requirement to balance all of our budget lines, and we do so on an ongoing basis when one budget line is being funded through another. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Brian, 256.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees, based upon the recommendation of the police chief, hereby approves Charles Gerbino for an unpaid internship at the Pleasantville Police Department beginning January 4, 2011.
Second?
We have had a regular flow of interns from Pace University, and the student Charles Gerbino is a junior at Pace and will assist in the police department free of charge.
I have a job for him.
Thank you very much. All in
Go to
favor?
the country club.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mindy, 257.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village treasurer to sign the closing certificate and supplemental agreement with New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation regarding the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation State Drinking Water Revolving Fund revenue bonds.
Is there a second?
Second.
We discussed this last week.
Patty, correct me if I may get any of this
Sure,
wrong.
go ahead.
$2,875,000 of debt from the Village of Pleasantville for our purchase and improvement of the water system and our share of the filtration plant was funded through the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation through what's called the Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Funds. They have a final maturity of June 2018, and the Environmental Facilities Corporation is going to explore the question of whether this debt, including our debt as well as the debt of others, could be refinanced at a better rate in the current environment. All true?
That's all true.
Missing anything?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. So if in the end the debt can't be refinanced at a better rate, we'll remain where we are.
That's correct.
But it's a matter of agreeing with the Environmental Facilities Corporation to test the waters. Number 258.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby refers the Westchester County Fair and Affordable Housing Implementation Plan Ordinance to the Planning Commission for comment.
Is there a second?
Second?
As many of you know, and certainly those of you who listen to many of our meetings have heard, at the end of the Spano administration, Westchester County signed a legal agreement with the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development to promote affordable housing in certain specific ways and to produce, I think, 750 units of affordable housing in selected municipalities that met certain census guidelines over the next 7 years.
That's right.
As part of that, the county has proposed to us a model zoning ordinance that they propose we incorporate into our village zoning that would, among other things, require that there be a set-aside for affordable units in any new development. For example, it says, within all residential developments of 10 or more units created by subdivision or site plan approval, no less than 10% of the total number of units must be created as affordable. In residential developments of 5 to 9 units, at least one affordable unit shall be created. So that and quite a number of other elements of the zoning code have been proposed to us by the county in a model zoning ordinance, and the resolution we have before us is to refer that, as we always do, to the Planning Commission for comment about a proposed zoning change. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby authorizes the village assessor to correct the tax roll to add a Cold War veteran exemption to parcel ID 99.15-1-1/1.4.
Your second?
Second.
Our assessor identified that there is one village resident who was entitled to this exemption, who had not been shown as having it on the last tax roll. This is a resolution to change, to correct the record, and the net effect of this is a savings of less than $78 to that homeowner. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. That is the last of our resolutions for tonight
For 2010.
and for 2010.
Wow. How do you like that?
You had 259 resolutions this year. Congratulations.
So we should compare that in a chart to see how that.
Almost the same number of vetoes that people were dealing with last week at the county.
Except we don't have, can I veto? I'm not sure. We're all in the same,
you have the-
we're all
you have-
together.
Yeah.
Busy
All I get to
year.
do is vote no.
It was a
That's
good year.
fine.
Thank you all. Good year.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you
Patty.
to the
Happy
village
New Year to
staff.
everybody.
Happy New Year to
too.
everybody. We very much appreciate
Thank
your
you,
interest
Shane,
and
too.
support. Thank you, Shane
Shane.
McGaffey.
Man behind the scenes.
Man behind the scenes on the other side of the camera, on behalf of PCTV, with which we contract to provide these services, and he does a great job. And not only that, as we have mentioned many times, was behind the mission of getting PCTV76.org, a great website that provides.
Which I wanted to
on-demand
add, the
video.
biggest watcher of PCTV76.org is my mother.
Oh, that's
So
great.
I think
Oh, very
if
cool.
you looked on it, and she's probably watching tonight from New Jersey.
Very cool.
So thanks to you, Shane, she gets to watch her daughter every Monday night, which she gets very excited about. I'll tell you, Mom, the flight is out Thursday morning. So
Oh, yeah.
she's waiting for that. She's waiting for that. I hope you're watching.
Happy New Year to all. We'll see you again in 2011 at a work session Monday, January 3 at 7 p.m. Happy New Year to all. Stay off the greens and the traps. Have a great time sledding, but be respectful to all.
And to
Thank
all
you.
a good night.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2010 is over as far as the village board is concerned.